This is a recording of the Queeny, Lafayette, and Missouri River Township Democratic Club's monthly meeting that took place on Thursday, January 27th, 2022, at 7:30 p.m. over Zoom. Special guest speakers at this meeting include candidates for Rockwood School Board, Amy Ryan and Deborah Stein, candidates for Parkway School Board, Phillip Caldwell and Robert Riti, and candidate for Town and County Alderman, Mohammed Agha. This meeting also features a special update on the 2nd District Missouri Democrats from Chairman and Missouri River Township Committeeman Al Gerber. Our first speaker for the evening is Amy Ryan, a candidate for Rockwood School District Board of Education. Amy is a scientist who works in healthcare and is the parent of 2 children in the Rockwood School District. Here's Amy Ryan.
Wife of 1, and I have a bachelor's degree from Purdue in health science and focusing on pharmacy and chemistry, and I also have a master's degree in health informatics and health administration from Mizzou. Why I wanted to really take this opportunity to let you know what I am so passionate about, and that is education. I am absolutely committed that Rockwood's education be centered around our children, our community, and our classrooms. I am fully committed to getting Jefferson City and Washington, D.C. out of our local public schools and have the local community manage public school policy. I know I have the right skills and the background to govern and manage such a large district, but I also want to listen and learn from all kids, from all backgrounds, and most importantly, I want to listen and support our teachers in our public schools. That is my main message to the community. That is my main message to our students and to our teachers. Because if our students and our staff, if they don't feel that they are, if they're not supported, if they're not accepted, then our district will go into sheer chaos where we're going to lose our prestige and ranking within the state. So that is my platform. That is what I'm going to be fighting for. And I'll take any of your questions.
If anyone's got some questions, feel free to speak up. You can also share them in the chat or DM me if you want me to ask them.
I have a question. Clearly, there's been some controversy about mask mandates and COVID policy, particularly in the Rockwood School District. What would your position be regarding that?
Sure. So thank you so much for the question. So I have been in healthcare for over 20 years, and I fully understand the importance of having a safe and secure learning environment, especially for our students and staff. And if we cannot get our students to reach that full academic potential, we cannot achieve that if we don't have teachers to teaching them. So how I would implement such safety mitigations is I would fully follow the recommendations of the CDC, the NIH, the WHO, American Academy of Pediatrics, our local public health department, and also our local physicians and healthcare workers. Because if we don't create such safety mitigations that are guided by our healthcare experts, then we're going to lose staffing. We're going to lose in-person learning, and that is what the children need. We need absolute in-person learning, and we cannot do that if we don't have a healthy, full public staff, school staff. Does that help?
Yes. Just to follow up, would you support a full mask mandate for all students and staff and shutting the district down if the numbers become untenable?
Sure. So The bottom line is I am full support of keeping our kids in school. I want them in school. And the only way to do that is having a healthy public school staff. So if the viral load is so high, we must have a mask mandate. We must have that. Right now, we are at a 29% positivity rate for St. Louis County. That is incredibly high. We cannot base our safety mitigation based on school infection rate. We must look at the community spread. And right now we are at 29%. So right now, I would absolutely support a mask mandate for both children, teachers, and other public school staff. When it reaches down to a lower positivity rate, the CDC recommends that you can change those safety mitigations. That is how healthcare works. That is how science works. We, as a community, must evolve and be fluid with what the current community is doing. And right now, the viral load is too high. So I would fully support a mask mandate. We can then change that once the viral load goes down.
Anyone else have some questions? Talia?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Yes, I was wondering, I would really be interested in all the other candidates weighing in the same question. So I was gonna maybe suggest that everybody could introduce themselves and then we can ask these questions and all candidates could answer the same question briefly.
Yeah, we're not really trying to run this as sort of a debate or a panel or anything. We want to give each candidate time to talk about themselves and ask any question or answer any questions. But we can definitely make sure that all the candidates talk about this issue as well.
Okay, so Amy, have your kids been in the Rockwood School District?
Yes. So I have
public school?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Were they in the public school or are they in the public school?
Yes. So I have two daughters. One is attending Green Pines Elementary, and the other one is at Wildwood Middle School.
Mm-hmm. And what is your feeling about what's going on right now about CRT? What's your understanding of CRT and about the books that people are, a lot of parents are contesting?
Sure. So regarding CRT, I have asked many people to help me understand their understanding of CRT, and they cannot define it. All they know is maybe some talking points from various people. So if I cannot have adults define what CRT is, I cannot have students define it either. So CRT, as we know, it's a university level law class, and that is not age appropriate for the elementary, middle school, or high school students. What I can expect is that my daughter, who's half Korean, half Caucasian, specifically Irish, we got to say she's Irish, that she needs to be represented. That when she walks into the classroom or read a book in the library or see what Asian Americans have participated in this democracy that we're in right now, that she should see herself and she should feel that she is seen, heard, and accepted throughout the school system. Regarding, not CRT, but regarding the book banning. So I have my ideology, I have my value-based, and I, as a parent, will provide that teaching for my children. I absolutely cannot indoctrinate other parents my own ideology or my own set of beliefs. Because of that, I do not believe in cancel culture. I do not believe in censorship. So regarding the books, I think public schools and public libraries should have an array of books so when kids and the community walk into their library, they can see themselves and read about how their own community has been influenced throughout the books. So schools are a center of critical learning. They are a center of where kids can go into different worlds and feel that they are accepted. So I do not believe in book banning. I do not believe in cancel culture or any kind of censorship at all.
Thank you very much.
We've got time for one more question if anyone's got one. All right, thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you.
Deborah, you want to go ahead and go next?
Sure. Well, hello, I'm Deborah Stein, and I am also a candidate for the Rockwood School Board. Luckily for me and Amy, everyone can vote for two candidates. I'm going to vote for Amy, and I hope that she will vote for me. So full disclosure, I will tell you that I have a history with Democratic politics, which almost caused me not to put my name on the ballot. My dad was the Democratic nominee for U.S. Congress in 1992 in Tennessee. And I took about 6 or 8 months off of college to work on his campaign. And it was, 24/7, grueling, hard work and thankless work. And I worked so hard that I swore I would never get involved in politics ever again. But here I am. And the reason is because I just don't think there's ever been a more important time. And honestly, besides me and Amy this year in Rockwood, there wasn't anybody else that was going to step up and do it. And I feel like someone has to stand in the gap and stop some of the destructive behavior that's been going on and make sure that Rockwood remains strong. So I've lived in the Rockwood district for 17 years. And my husband, Greg, and I have three students that graduated in 2021. So just this past year, they're in their freshman year of college now. I have a set of twins, Aubrey and Aiden. And then we welcomed a third student into our home and family freshman year. Her name is Danisha. And she was a student in the VIC program who was a friend of my daughter's since third grade. And to make a long story short, we just realized at a certain point that she needed a change in her living situation. So she came to live with us. And having those three in our home and watching them grow up, going to Fairway and then Wildwood Middle and then Eureka High School, I feel like I know the school system pretty well at this point. I am also a product of public schools. I then went to college at Vanderbilt University and earned a bachelor's degree in English, and then went to Georgetown for a master's degree in public policy. And since then, I've been working in the nonprofit sector and in higher education. I currently work at WashU, but I have 10 years of experience before that working with school dropouts and youth at risk. And then several years before that, working for United Ways, which of course raises funds for health and human services organizations. So I really believe in the community and the power of what the community can do together when it organizes and puts its efforts and money behind positive things that are going to better the community. The tagline for my campaign is empathy and excellence in education, and that's because I believe that empathy and excellence go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. We really do have an excellent school system. It's one of the best in the nation, as is Parkway, and we should be proud and supportive of our educators. And we must also really make sure that all of our programs and policies are working consistently for all students and that we're dismantling any barriers to their success. So to sum it up, I am really passionate about investing in children and ensuring that every Rockwood student has the resources and opportunities that they need to be successful. And I appreciate you all having us on and happy to answer any questions. To answer the one about the masks, I don't have anything different to say from Amy. I think that our number one priority needs to be to try to keep kids in school in person safely if we can. The worst thing that could happen is that our infection rates get so high that we have to shut school down again and go all online. So if you don't want that to happen, you may need to wear masks. I mean, we need to follow the guidance of our scientists and our public health experts.
Great. Anyone else have questions?
Can we get her to answer the question about critical race theory too, please?
Sure. About the question was about critical race theory. So I talk about this a lot. One of my who I call my daughters, although she's not biologically mine or even legally mine at this point, is a Black young woman. And we have a lot of discussions about race around our table. And they have a lot of discussions about race at school. If some parents don't think that race is being discussed at school, they're definitely wrong. And I think I would rather have teachers guiding those discussions and providing materials, firsthand materials, what they call primary sources that our students, they learn so much differently than we did when I was in school. I read everything out of a textbook. They read primary sources now, and they debate and they argue the merits of different ideas in ways that really challenge their ability to think critically far more than I did when I was their age. So these conversations are happening, and we need people who are well trained, like many of our teachers are, to guide those discussions in a healthy way. We had an unfortunate incident in Rockwood, where a member of the administration at the district level, a curriculum person, suggested that the teachers remove references to certain words that might bring about the ire of parents. That's not the way to handle it. Parents have access to the reading lists. They should continue to be given access to the reading lists. I hope that all of the parents will read those books too, and then be able to have discussions at home with their kids like I do. And frankly, when it comes to the book banning, I've now read all of those books, whereas I hadn't read them all before. So, that's just how I spend my spare time these days, reading books people don't want me to read.
Karen, go ahead.
I hope that answers your question. I think that parents should be involved, but I think that we should continue to have these difficult conversations at school.
Oops, now I'm unmuted. I put it in the chat box that the League of Women Voters of Metro St. Louis is having a Meet the Candidate event at the Rockwood Administrative Annex on March 8th from 6 to 8 p.m. I hope that's not a surprise to either of you two ladies, but it will give you an opportunity to meet and hear from all 5 candidates. That's my League of Women Voters nonpartisan spiel. Thank you.
Great.
No, I do think it's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask if anyone else had questions, so go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that I do think it is very important that these positions remain nonpartisan. I hope that I don't ever have to ask or tell, party affiliations. There are efforts to try to make our school boards be partisan elections, and I think that we would really lose a lot. This is an area where you see conservative leaning and and liberal leaning people come together on issues about education and how we're raising our kids. There's a lot of agreement on that. So I appreciate the nonpartisan comment there, because I do think that we need to make sure that remains the case.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming, Deborah. Let's go ahead and switch over the border just slightly. Phillip, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. Quick Phillip in a nutshell. I'm born and raised in St. Louis, North County, mainly. I graduated from Hazelwood West in 2003. Then I went up to Culver Stockton College and studied music education. While I was a music ed major up there, I was still coming down to St. Louis just about every weekend, unfortunately, playing music, recording albums and stuff like that. That's where I fell in love with being in the studio. So as soon as I could, I actually drove out to California, spent about a decade playing, studying audio engineering in LA first, and that made me more of a player because everybody I knew was an engineer. Nobody else knew a horn player. So I actually ended up playing a lot more saxophone than recording, which was a little weird and ironic, but fun. Eventually, I met an incredible woman, followed her up to Seattle, Washington, when she got accepted to the University of Washington's Master of Teaching program. And we spent the last 5 years up there. She was teaching in Highline School District, which was a very a district and school in need, let's just say. My wife went into this kind of with a social impact sort of mindset to teaching. We eventually were in St. Louis for a friend's wedding, and she made the mistake of opening up the Redfin app while we were in St. Louis and went, oh my God, look at how much house we can buy out here versus in Seattle. And we're back. So in the middle of the pandemic in 2019, I drove across the country twice, which was real fun, to move back to St. Louis. We moved here right by technically, it's unincorporated St. Louis. Basically, it's Creve Coeur. I'm at 270 in Olive, so real close to Parkway Northeast Middle, I believe. And yeah, we've been here since. We set roots, and we decided to give it a go at having a family. And we had our first child, Eileen Harper Caldwell, in June of 2020. So really excited about that. We just we found out about the Parents as Teachers program that Parkway has, and so we're excited to, we have a 7-month-old that's already in the Parkway school system. It's the early education program that I found out we have here is amazing, and I'm so excited about that. So that's kind of me in a nutshell, where I went, where I've been, and why I've come back. I love St. Louis. When I was gone, I remember a lot of people, they would always say, oh, where are you from? I'd tell them St. Louis, Missouri. They'd be like, oh man, bet you're glad you got out of there, or good thing you got out of there. And it was one thing that I never understood. I have always loved St. Louis. I wear red, I bleed blue. You can see the Hall jersey right behind me. And I've always loved how much St. Louis has to offer and how accessible it is. I was pissed the first time somebody invited me to the LA Zoo and I found out I had to pay for it. I didn't realize that was a thing you paid for everywhere else. So I always said, when I get back to St. Louis, I'm going to get involved in some way. I'm going to get back into the community. I'm going to help drive the community and show people outside of St. Louis that we're more than a flyover city, that there's so much here, there's so much culture, there's so many opportunities that a lot of people outside of Missouri even just don't realize. Like even in other Midwest cities, I don't think they give us enough credit as it is. So that was one of the real driving things that got me involved. And also, like I said, I was a music ed major. I taught private lessons on saxophone. My wife is a 5th grade teacher at St. Louis Public Schools. My grandma was a teacher for decades and decades. And when they babysat me, I used to have to go through like math flashcards before I could watch PBS. And my dad was the director of student data for special school district here in St. Louis all the way up until actually June of 2019 also, right when I moved back, was basically right when he retired. And now he's our part-time daycare. So that worked out really well for us. So when I saw that there was going to be a couple positions on the school board in Parkway, I felt like that was a clear-cut, situation for me to get involved with. I wanted to get involved with the community. Education is clearly a huge part of our family, and clearly I'm in it for the long haul. Even if somebody wants to say that I'm completely selfish about why I'm in it for my daughter, well, guess what? She's going to be in the system for 18 years. I've got a long invested interest in Parkway being a top tier school. As a music ed major, I have a very vested interest in continuing Parkway's reputation for being an incredible fine arts school district as well. I know our marching band and their marching band used to kind of have a little rivalry going when I was still in high school. And now I'm also an accountant. Go figure. I was a musician. Now I'm an accountant. So I think that one of the things I can bring to the table is a real sense of financial and fiscal responsibility, and just knowledge and know-how. So that's a little bit about me. I'd love to answer any questions if you guys have them. And for a lot of you, I think I've seen you in some of the same spots. So I probably just bored you with the same story 3 times now. Sorry.
Phillip, you want to go ahead and talk about your position on the masking and?
Yes. I think, Amy really nailed it on the head. Right now, the science and everybody that I know of that is in the medical field, my cousin's a doctor, my sister's a nurse, 3 of my aunts are nurses. It's just all the science points us to one direction. We need to mitigate this as much as possible. And the best way to do that, to keep everybody in the school currently, is masks. My wife, like I said, is a school teacher. Our household was tested positive 2 weeks ago. It was basically a matter of time that we felt like at that moment, with a child in daycare and a public school teacher in the classroom. But luckily, it didn't last very long. We got out of it. We are doing everything in our situation to be able to keep her in the classroom, because she knows that the best way she can reach those teachers, especially those students, especially the ones in the highest need, which is a lot of her class, is to be there physically. And so in order to keep everybody in the school safe, not just the students who are having milder reactions, that's where a lot of people focus is on the students. They have milder reactions. Is it necessary? They're not the only people in the school. The teachers, all of the administrative staff, and all of the support staff are just as integral to that school functioning as a whole. And we need to keep all of those bodies in the school. And in order to do that, we need to keep them healthy and safe.
Thank you. Debbie, you want to go ahead?
You said you were an accountant, and I was wondering if you have any fiscal wonders about the Parkway School District.
I'm sorry, so any fiscal what now?
Wonders, things you wonder about financially within the district?
I had a ton. Luckily, Patty Bedborough had a nice long meeting with me, the Parkway District CFO. We sat down, we kind of went through a lot of it together. I asked her a number of questions, especially about the incoming revenues and the spike in expenses over the last couple of years, or really just the last year for the expenses. So I've had a lot of those answered. By chance, are you working also with the financials at Parkway? Do I need to reach out to you as well?
No, though
Oh,
you
okay.
and I will talk later. I was just
Sounds
wondering.
Yeah, so I have met with her. I have asked her a number of questions.
Okay, and another question is, if we were to be looking for a new superintendent, what would be on your list for look-fors in a new superintendent, should that arise?
That is a fantastic question. One, I've also sat down and met with Dr. Marty. He's a very impressive superintendent, in my opinion. I really enjoyed my meeting with him. I believe that there's an incalculable amount of things that you're looking for. A few of them is just, pure leadership skills. Can they come in and can they present themselves and their knowledge to a room of their peers in such a fashion? And I think that's one of those traits that's really hard to quantify and measure, but you know it when you know it, I guess. But also inclusion. At the board meetings that I've gone to, it's been borderline shocking to me sometimes that the only person of color at all in the entire room ends up being the deputy superintendent. So I would hope that out of everything, that really what I'm looking for in that regard is that we have a pool of diverse and qualified candidates. That's one of the main things that I would want, is to make sure that we're picking the best candidate, but we're picking the best candidate from the appropriate pool of candidates, and we don't funnel that in any inappropriate ways. Obviously, some fiscal knowledge. You're talking about millions and millions of dollars that they are in charge of, so they need to have some sort of grasp and understanding. I understand that they're superintendents, they're not accountants, they're not CFOs, but they do need to have some sort of general understanding of those kind of numbers and what they mean and how they're working together. And then I think the other thing that I would be looking for is ingenuity. What's always been done doesn't always need to be done. To keep Parkway moving forward and a destination school district. I mean, one of the reasons my wife and I moved to where we moved in St. Louis when we came back in 2019 was because it was in the Parkway School District. That was a thing. And to keep that moving forward, to keep that for the long haul, we need to be thinking outside of the box. We need to be early adapters at new technology. We need to be flexible, because you have no idea what the next pandemic is, what it's going to be, and how it's going to rock us. So I think that having a candidate that's willing to think outside the box, that's willing to think around corners, would also be, very, very important to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phillip. Rob, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thanks, John. My name is Rob Riti, and I'm running for the Board of Education Parkway. I'd like to thank the Queeny and Lafayette Democratic Township Club for having this discussion, and I've got to learn a lot from from Phillip and from those in the Rockwood race, and it's really great to be here. I, like Phillip, I grew up in North County and had a good public education in the Hazelwood schools as well. And then I went on to get school at the University of Missouri. I got my undergrad there in business. And then while I was working later, I got an MBA at St. Louis University. While in college, I was a varsity football player at Mizzou. And I think this taught me a lot about teamwork and grit, time management, things that I took forward with me on later into business. After college, after football, I had a brief stint with the Rams, and then I went to work in the medical device industry, where I've been for about the last 20 years. And, I've learned a lot working in business. I've learned how to work on cross-functional teams, how to delegate authority, how to make difficult decisions. And I think these are some of the things that would be very helpful for me if I were to be elected on the board. I'd also make a comment about my real admiration and love for public schools. I think people look at public schools, and some suggest that, schools can't be a panacea for all things for kids, and I know that's true. I know there's got to be some limits. But at the same time, when I think about my experience in public schools, I think I went to school, I learned to play an instrument, I was on the choir, I was in theater productions, I played sports. My entire academic experience is from public school. Everything that I did that was formative from an extracurricular or academic standpoint was from public schools. So it was seminal in my development. It was a launch pad for me. It led to a college scholarship, and then that led to many great things in life. And because of that, I think it's one of the most important things we can do is emphasize the public school education for kids. I married my wife, Lori, in 2014. And at that time, we created a blended family. We'd each been married once before. So we had 4 kids between us. And then since then, we've had 2 of our own. So I've got 6 kids. So I've had kids, stepchildren, my own children through every different level of public school education, through kindergarten, middle school, and graduating from high school. You know, I got so much experience going to sporting events, going to concerts, going to parent-teacher meetings, you know, sports that are sanctioned varsity sports, sports that are club sports, just really getting a feel for everything that it's like to be a parent of a student at all the different levels of Parkway schools. And I developed a great love for Parkway at that time. You know, coming from North County, it was just a different experience. You know, the education is second to none, academic excellence, fantastic extracurricular activities. Of course, the support from the community is very strong. And when I see that and I think about it, I realize, because I've seen other examples, I've seen other school districts not fare as well, I realize that doesn't happen by accident. You know, it's sort of a cycle. A fantastic school district leads to a great community with good tax base. That tax base goes back and is able to reinvest in the schools, have top quality teachers, top quality facilities. And that doesn't just keep going on without good stewardship and good oversight. It's been great for a really long time, and I want it to stay that way. I don't want it to get off course. I want to be part of that solution. You know, so what I think that I can bring to the board, and I mentioned this with my background in business, is, you know, I think I've got a demonstrated history of leadership, whether that be being selected as team captain, University of Missouri football team, managing different groups in business, working on different innovations, trying to promote messages to different audiences, you know, and just a deep understanding of what it's like to parent kids at all different levels of elementary, middle school, and high school education, and just a real love and admiration for Parkway schools. You know, I'd feel a real passion for the success of the district and wanting to be an advocate for the district, you know, wear my Parkway pullover wherever I could, and I'd be excited to do that every day. So I'm sure I left things out. You know, I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to answer the same questions everybody else did. John, if you don't mind just sort of acting as the MC and tell me what you'd like me to do, I'll do it.
Sure. Go ahead and answer the question that we've been asking everyone about the mask mandates and other interventions.
Right. So COVID pandemic has been a tragedy for all of us. I know several of us have known people who have been seriously ill and some who have died, and it's been a major impact on the kids. During the beginning of the pandemic, all the kids were out of school. And then since then, everybody's had to wear masks. And I realize that masks are a minor inconvenience and people don't enjoy wearing them. And I think there's also some nuanced aspects of education that's impacted by masks. You know, I've got a kindergartner, and I'm sure that not being able to see facial expressions is important. And I understand that, and that's reasonable. But I think the most important thing is the safety of the children and keeping kids in school. You know, I learned recently, actually, by attending a school board meeting and hearing the school board president mention that his son's a teacher in Springfield, the biggest school district in the state. You know, an area where they're not really fond of masks, no mask mandate, and they had to shut down school. You know, kids, there was high enough infection rate. Too many teachers were sick, too many kids were sick, they had to shut down school. So there's no school. You're doing virtual school, or you're not having school at all. I think that's the biggest risk. So for that reason, I'm not necessarily a proponent of a mask mandate. I'm a proponent of following whatever the local health board, whatever the local, you know, the doctors that we entrust with these decisions say is the best way to keep the kids in school. And I think right now it's a mask mandate. I hope that doesn't go on for perpetuity. I know it won't, but now it is, and I'm in favor of it.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions? Got one in chat. Robert, is there any one change you would want to see in Parkway that caused you to run?
There's not one issue that caused me to run. You know, there's not a basketball coach I want to get fired or something. And I don't know, just all kidding aside. There's not some reason that I ran. I'm not a one issue guy. But there are things that are important to me. And I think one of them is, and this is sort of a byproduct of the pandemic, is the kids' mental health, you know, anxiety mitigation. I'm concerned about kids being impacted by this beyond the physical element. I want to, if I were on the board, I'd want to investigate, continue to learn, continue to stay engaged with Dr. Marty and his action team to find out what are things we could do to help kids in their mental health. It's something that's very important to me. That is for personal reasons and just because I think it has great societal impact. So that's not necessarily one thing I'd want to change, but it's an area that I'd give focus.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Thank you guys all so much. I just want to echo what Asma shared earlier in the chat. Thank you all for stepping up. It's really important. School board, it doesn't get as much attention as other races do, but it is just as important and it affects us on a daily basis. So I really want to thank you guys all for running.
Thank you, Asma.
So the next part of our meeting today, we were going to have Al Gerber, who is the chair of the Missouri 2nd Congressional District Democrats. We're going to have him talk about the Democratic Party efforts to go ahead and flip the 2nd district. You're muted, Al.
Can I share my screen?
Should be turned on, yeah. Go ahead and try.
All right, here we go. See it? Kind of a...
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet, huh? Ah, there's a... Anything? Got it?
You are good.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I want to actually get here. And show you what we've been doing in the 2nd district. First, let me say that the 2nd district, currently the currently the incumbent is Ann Wagner, Republican. We have, in the past, there has been a 2nd district committee, but they've never really done anything to help candidates running or to help, work on getting rid of the Republican candidate that's in there. They haven't really done anything. So this year, we decided to actually start getting our committee active. And we have a lot of people who stepped up to be active. John Judy has been leading this meeting as our treasurer. We have several others. We have a lot of people who are stepping up to help out with various activities. Now, I'll get to the activities in a minute. You saw the kind of structure chart that we showed you. I just wanted to show you where the 2nd district is, in case you're not. Now there. That picture right there, you see that one? We've got St. Louis counties in the middle, and Jefferson County down here. It's very Republican. I mean, 2-1, maybe even more. And up here is St. Charles, which is not as bad as Jeffco, but it's very Republican. Now you can be able to see it. I don't know, can you see me? Am I on there? If you can see my picture, I've got an article in West Magazine today, that I just got today, that says that the congressional districts are not finalized, but they're pretty close to finalized. And what it does is the 2nd district changes. The Fenton part goes out, which is good, but the St. Charles part gets bigger, which is not good. The political experts estimate that we're going from about an R+2 district, that's what we were last election. After redistricting, it might be an R+4. So it's not bad. I mean, it's still within striking distance with some good work, good candidate. it's still within striking distance. It's not, like R+10 or R+15 like it is out in the, in the countryside. So I'm going to show you that. Let's go down to the activities that we're planning to start. Okay, this is kind of a structure that we made up. We have our executive committee here, and they are elected. Most of us are, well, I think all of us are committeemen from our townships, and we are all elected to be committee. Now, but everybody down here are people who stepped up and volunteered. And let me just go through a couple of the activities we're doing and see, if anything catches your eye. Infrastructure is one thing we're building. Data management, IT support. We have access to the van, to the voter activation network. For people who are democratically leaning, even if it's a nonpartisan group and they are running in the second district, come and talk to me. Maybe we can work something out to get you some access to this database. It's the same one that all the candidates use. Get you some access. The strategic plan, you see we've already done that. Other things we haven't started yet, training, recruitment, then means recruitment for elected offices. Well, I wouldn't say that. We're helping with recruitment for some offices. So we're starting that already. Okay, finance, of course, that's just getting started. I'm mainly taking that on myself. Something the chair. Helping candidates. Some of the things that might be under there are opposition research that we can do and publicize. The candidate maybe can't do that because they don't want to seem like a mean person. We don't mind. We don't mind seeing mean. So we can do this kind of thing. We can put it out there in different ways. Voters registration and turnout, things like that. Getting people. There's a lot of people who aren't even, they're left leaning, but they're not registered. We can do a lot. Okay, communications. This is a committee that's been meeting already. Communications really means, in our case, in the digital area. They've been getting their technology together and starting to work on some messaging and some memes and some things like that. And that committee is going. Any of you like that kind of stuff? Because we can get you helping out. And this is something you can do from home too. We're not meeting. Okay, last one, community engagement. We're trying to make sure that the party is actually touching base with all the progressive groups. So that's something that we haven't done very well in Missouri in the past. People like Mothers Against Drunk Driving, they're not a Democratic group, but they are very progressive. And a lot of times we'll have some interests. So there's a lot of groups like that we have to kind of get in touch with and just see where we have common interests. A lot of times it will be that the Democrats are supporting their common interests, certainly the gun issue, NARAL, things like that. In general, we support their issues and we can help them. So those are the 6 kind of areas that we're going on. A couple of them we've already started, others we need people to start. If something like that is interesting to you, please contact me. And those of you who are candidates, and if you think that you're Democratic leaning, you don't have to declare yourself as a Democratic leaning. Talk to me also about possible access to them. One more thing. Oh, the Republicans, I heard I'm on the state committee, and I heard in the state meeting a couple of weeks ago, Republicans are spending like $3 million, maybe more, on school board. So the National Republican Party is coming in and finding not, unprogressive people, very conservative people, and just dumping money into their campaigns. We don't really have that kind of money. We do have ways of helping you with the database and things. So get in touch with me. I will, after I've stopped sharing, I'll put my email address in the chat area. So, do you have any questions on what we're doing? And Anything? What do you got? Share my information in the chat. Okay.
Anyone have any questions? Thank you so much for sharing all that, Al. I did share in the chat. We have our website up, so if anyone wants to volunteer, we also have a mailing list going, and there's also a link to donate. Please visit the site and sign up. I did get the agenda backwards. I apologize for that, Mohammed. We also have a candidate for alderman in Town and Country, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for inviting me this evening. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with all of you. So my name is Mohammed Agha. I'm running for alderman for Ward 3 in Town and Country. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a native St. Louis and moved here when I was 11 years old. I lived in Belleville, Illinois. So I was born outside the U.S., moved to Belleville when I was 6. My uncle still lives there. Then moved to St. Louis at the age of 11, grew up here. And then went to combined undergrad and medical programs. The University of Missouri Kansas City is a 6-year program where they merge undergraduate and medical degree. So got my BA and MD in 6 years. Then moved to Richmond, Virginia for my medical training in physical medicine rehabilitation. For those of you who are less familiar with that specialty, we work with patient populations who have functional deficits. So think of somebody who has a spinal cord injury, a brain injury, a stroke, to people who have, sports injuries or chronic pain, things like that. Also, pediatric populations, geriatric populations. So I did my fellowship there in Richmond as well. So taking care of people with musculoskeletal complaints, shoulder, hip, knee pain, back, neck pain. Training with ultrasound to be very precise with injections when we did that. So I wanted to come back home because my family's still here in St. Louis. And so I started my first job at Mizzou as a faculty attending for the Department of PM&R and Orthopedic Surgery, and did that for 5 years. Started getting interested in the bigger picture in healthcare just because there's so much more that can be done at a broader scale beyond taking care of patients, which is a wonderful privilege, but I can only touch 20 to 25 people in clinic. So started scaling my responsibilities in terms of larger responsibilities, got a master's in health administration, SLU, while practicing at Mizzou full-time, which is a lot of fun. Full-time practice plus back to school. And so eventually, wanted to take on more responsibilities. So I moved back home with my wife. And at that time, my 4-month-old son is now close to 3. And so joined BJC in a system administrative role. And 6 months in, COVID hit. And so I learned quite a bit about how an entire health system, rallies together to solve big problems. And, so learned quite a bit about how do you get testing supplies for a novel virus? How do you roll out guidelines to your doctors? How do you check and make sure that the tests aren't being used too frequently because people are scared? Because it's a virus that's never been out there in existence and people want to make sure that they're safe, but the manufacturers don't have extra tests that you can buy because everybody's scrambling to buy the same tests. So learned quite a bit. After 9 months of doing that, so I've been at BJC for about a year plus. There was just a great opportunity to join SSM Health, which is where I'm at now. I'm medical director of care coordination for 2 of the hospitals or ministries, as we call them, at SSM. And so, how then have I decided to run for alderman of Ward 3 from that background? Well, so when I was, pursuing the administrative side of healthcare, I actually met with Dr. Charlie Ream way back in 2017 and was speaking with him and got to know him a little bit. And so when I moved back to St. Louis 2 years ago, I saw that he was the mayor of Town and Country. So I said, Dr. Ream, I didn't realize you were the mayor. It'd be, how did you move into this role? And so we caught up last month, actually, and I said, how can I give back? Because I'm really interested in just being able to give back, because St. Louis has given a lot to me. And he said, okay, well, let me get back to you sometime after the new year and we can figure out a committee that you could join us. Wonderful. Well, 2 weeks later, he actually said, there's an alderman position open, and I think that you would do a good job in that. And I said, okay, well, what does it entail? I appreciate the faith, but what does it entail? Because I actually do want to do a good job at it. And we spoke about it, and I said, yeah, I think it would fit what I'm trying to do. In the roles I've taken, first at Mizzou, then BJC, and now SSM, as I've scaled my responsibilities, navigating any type of change or working with a wide variety of stakeholders where everybody has a different background, they have a different role and responsibility they have to fulfill, but you still have to get something done. How do you work with different people with different responsibilities, different pressures to make sure you get things done the right way, be a good communicator, get things done properly? And I've been able to navigate that, especially in the last 2.5 years with COVID. Really testing, how people respond in different situations, and really just working with different people at different stages of their careers, and different responsibilities, and just different stressors. So being able to work with a wide variety of people in those roles, I think would prepare me for this role. And again, just to give back to my community, given that I've been here, I've been native of St. Louis, and again, St. Louis has given me a lot, and I want to give back. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with all of you, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions?
All right. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thank you again, and thank you also for running. That's we need as many people as we can that are good progressive people running for these offices. So really appreciate it.
Sure, absolutely. Happy to.
Next up, we've got Morgan, who's going to share some information about changes that have been going on in the Missouri legislature.
Hello, everyone. I'm the past president of the Queeny Lafayette Township Democrats. I just wanted to come out and say something interesting happened recently in the Missouri legislature. In 2020, there are 163 districts in the Missouri House. In 2020, Republicans run 114 of them, Democrats 149. That gave them a super majority. Between then and now, 6 of the Republicans have resigned or died or are going to resign, which gives them 108. To have a super majority where they can do everything they want to do, they need 109 votes. So what does this mean for Democrats? This actually is a huge deal for 2 reasons. You need 109 votes to override a governor's veto, and you need 109 votes to create an emergency rule. What does that mean? Practically, what it means is that any law that's passed in the Missouri legislature takes effect in August, unless it passes with an emergency rule that says it takes effect immediately. The next step from that is the Republicans are looking at drawing new congressional maps after the 2020 census. And if it doesn't pass with an emergency rule, it doesn't take effect until August, after the primaries and after the April elections. If they have the 109 votes, it can take effect immediately. What that does is it gives Democrats some leverage in the drawing of the state maps. And it's looking like it's going to translate into something like the effort to make 7 Republican districts and 1 Democratic district is unlikely to pass if they need Democratic support. And in addition to that, anything else that they would want to pass by emergency rule, they're not going to be able to. So it's going to lead to a little more strength in Democratic positions passing some of these things. But most specifically with the state maps that are going to pass, now all of a sudden they need to have some Democratic support. which is going to basically change the way the maps are drawn.
Hey, Morgan.
Yeah.
Does this mean we should be thanking Parson because he refused to hold the special election?
This is in thanks to Mike Parson, who did not hold special elections to fill these seats. Yeah, as strange as that sounds, but there's only so much credit we can give them, but it's going to make a huge amount of difference for the next 10 years in the way these maps are drawn.
Wow, I never thought I'd use that in a sentence, but okay.
And I'm not exactly clear on why he didn't fill these seats and have the special elections, but I know there was a self-interest involved. Like there was some benefit to him to not have these special elections and fill these seats.
I know one of the things was that the last seat that actually flipped, that got rid of their supermajority, that person resigned like 2 days before session started, so might have come as a bit of a surprise to him.
Right. And that last person who resigned skipped his swearing in to attend the January 6th insurrection. So he's been a little controversial and has taken a job, I believe, in Florida in the private sector, which is why he's resigning.
Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, so Morgan, redistricting won't do anything yet. That'll be.
Well, so what's going to happen is if there is a map that Democrats find acceptable and are willing to vote with the Republicans on, they can go over that 109 vote threshold to pass an emergency rule, and it would take effect immediately, which means it would be in time for the August and November elections. So what it could do is, if they want to have these maps in place for the next set of elections, they need to have Democratic support, which means that they need to have maps that Democrats are going to agree to. If the Democrats don't agree to these maps, they're not going to take effect until after the August elections, which are going to throw the primaries into all kinds of chaos because nobody's going to know which district they're running in. So it's an incentive for them to create a map that Democrats will accept to get it passed with an emergency rule. So it will take effect immediately once it's passed. Anything else?
Thank you, Morgan, for getting us all that information. Next up, we've got Asma with an update on what's been going on with the Democratic Central Committee for the St. Louis County.
Hey everyone, this is Asma. I'm a committee woman for Missouri River Township, and all the committee members here are members of the St. Louis County Democratic Central Committee. We meet every month, and we meet a week before this meeting. So anyhow, last week we met a couple of announcements that I wanted to tell you about. If you want to save the date for Saturday, July 16th, that's the annual gala that Central Committee puts together, big fundraiser. And we know it's going to be a very important midterms coming up. So watch for information, please attend. And it's always great to just be around like-minded people and just mingling and talking, and it's energizing. So keep that date free. One thing that Central Committee wants to do is we actually want to open a real physical office. We had one decades ago. We would like to have kind of a street front-facing office. We would have staff there. Candidates would be able to use the space for issues and propositions. We could be using the space. We could store signs and things. So we're still looking at locations around the county, and more to come on that. There are still some in-person events going on. If you're interested, we'll let you know. There's trivia night sponsored by one of the townships, end of February 26th. And that was it for general announcements. And again, of course, redistricting is a big thing. We're hoping that gets resolved soon. Thanks.
Hey, Ozma,
Yes.
didn't the state party have an office that they opened up after 2020? Is that gone?
So no, that's what this is. We were going to do it with them. They were going to pay a big portion of it. They had a last minute kind of stop on that or hold. The DNC is not coming through with the money to the Missouri party, so they're not coming through with it to us. So yeah, what we were discussing is, does St. Louis County go ahead and go forth with the plans for an office and just fund it ourselves, hoping that DNC money will trickle in later?
There was an office that the city central committee opened up. I don't remember if that got any funding from the state party or not.
Okay, I don't know. Is that the one?
In the Grove.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Yeah, we can find out more, Morgan, for you.
I was just curious.
Yeah, yeah.
I had a pretty good guess on what the answer was going to be, but I just thought I'd ask.
Talia, you want to go ahead and with your question?
Is that Talia?
Yep, she's got her hand raised.
I'm sorry. I was muted.
No worries.
Yeah, go ahead.
I forgot to unmute myself. So I was just wondering, how costly is this office going to be? And because of the pandemic, we have been kind of moving away from offices. And in what way would this be so important, or what would it accomplish that you can't do over Zoom and other virtual ways?
Yeah, good question. So different things, mainly just to have kind of a presence. You know, it'd be like a storefront sign and an address and a physical location that we could have people trickle in, information, handouts to give out people, just to have more of a physical presence in the county. So the cost, you're right, we've been looking into locations and pricing, and we're hoping maybe like to use union spaces, and they would be minimally priced. We would help pay maybe some of the bills or the cleaning. Like you said, for COVID, they're bigger on cleaning places up. So,
Al, you want to go ahead and add to it?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that there are already about 4 counties around the state, including like Green County, down near Springfield, that do have an office and have had one for years. Their budgets are in the area of $180,000 to $200,000 a year. Our budget is about 25 to 30 in St. Louis County. Just having that office, having that presence, just expands your reach, your activities so much, and it's proven to be true throughout the state. So I think it would be a great thing if we could get that done.
So your past experience that it's really worth the money to have that physical presence?
Yeah, Al's right. The committee did reach out to other locations around Missouri and what they found. And actually, they even have hired executive directors at salaries. They do fundraising. That's part of the position of the executive director. And they can fund their own salaries and fund the spaces. So
some more, yeah.
Yeah, we got to be a little creative in these times. And just, we want to get our message out there. Democrats care. And all these years, I think we've been these last few years, I don't know if Democrats have necessarily been winning, or was it Republicans just losing? And we're losing ground, and we need our message out there. And also, our digital messaging is also very important, something we're also working on to grab maybe a younger crowd. But we just need to get ourselves out there and our message out there and wake people up.
Thank you. Yes.
Anyone else have any questions? Thank you, Asma. That's all for the main part of our meeting. Our next meeting is going to be on February, 24th, same time, also going to be virtual. We're hoping to have a Senate candidate, maybe a House candidate for CE2, and more of the school board candidates as well. So please join us again on that day. Missouri River, did you guys have some business? Do you need me to set up a breakout room for you guys?
We would like if you could, yeah.
Okay. Do we have any business on our end, Tracy? You're on mute.
No, not that I'm aware of. No.
Cool. Since we don't have any businesses, is it all right if I just go ahead and make you host, Al?
Fine.
There you go. Now you've got control. So thank you guys all for coming out and joining us, and look forward to seeing you guys again next month.
Thank you all.
Thank
And
you.
whoever would like to stay on, whoever is a member of Missouri River Township, you can stay on. And if you're not sure, we can let you know if you want.
Thank you, everybody.